Up with San Diego State's athletic director, J.D. Wicker. Also in 30 minutes, David J. from Mad Friars on the state of the Padres organization. JD, it's always great. We always appreciate your time here on San Diego Sports 760 and John and Jim. And I hope you're doing well. And thanks for doing it today.
Yeah, no, appreciate the time. Always good to catch up. And, sports starts here shortly. We've football's going, volleyball's going, the soccers are going. So we will be playing Aztec athletics here shortly.
I know it's back. We're back in August. We have football in just over 2 weeks. So, JD, just from your seat and perspective, what's it been like for you to watch what's happened with realignment specific to the Pac-12 conference over the course of the last week?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously been a quite the roller coaster. Disappointing, certainly on, a lot of different levels. Sitting there waiting on Friday morning as the Pac-12 was, had their 7 a.m. meeting, and, it seemed like at that point things were headed in a good direction with a grant of rights. And if a grant of rights got signed, then that would have been followed by a vote on the Aztecs to the Pac-12, and that had been basically approved already. So it's kind of just a function of what you had to do. And, in the matter of about 15 or 20 minutes, it kind of blew up. And, now we're where we're at with, student athletes flying all over the country to compete. And I'm not sure that that's the best thing for our student athletes, but something that, is kind of the reality right now. So since Friday, we have, been doing a lot of work on, what the next steps are for San Diego State.
And, it seems like you were all ready to go on Friday afternoon or Friday morning, excuse me, for a potential invite from the Pac-12. So when that happened, when you did not get that invite, obviously because the Pac-12 kind of dissolved and almost every school left either the Big 10 or the Big 12, what was the mindset at that moment? And how quickly have you guys had to pivot here? How quickly did you pivot on Friday? All right, what's next for us?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing is we're members of the Mountain West Conference. And we were members of the Mountain West Conference, Friday morning before all of that happened. So, I mean, we're in a very good place. We've been very successful in the Mountain West Conference. We've won numerous football titles, looking to, for a good season this year and, add another one. And then obviously men's basketball with the national title game, softball, one win away from the College World Series, swim and dive and golf winning championships. So we're in a spot where we know that we can be successful. We've obviously been working with, all that's out there on the landscape. Obviously, there's some Pac-12 schools that need to figure out what they're going to do. And, as the commissioner has talked about and others, is that, flying under the Pac-12 banner, is that flying under the Mountain West Conference banner. And so, yeah, we've just been continuing to do our due diligence, like we've been, lots of phone calls, lots of text messages with various people trying to figure out, what those next steps are.
All right, San Diego State's athletic director, J.D. Wicker, with us right now on John and Jim. I'm curious. I want to go back because, JD, you spent a decade at Washington State, right? I mean, you were there for the better part of 10 plus years. So, and you've been on both sides. You've worked in the Power Five. You've worked in the Group of Five, obviously. To see what's going on right now with Washington State specifically, what's that like from your perspective with all that experience you had in Pullman?
Yeah, I really feel for Oregon State and Washington State. I mean, both, institutions and, true college towns, and, being a part of the, those conferences was a big deal. And, they don't have the, large DMA or TV footprint to fall back on. And, this, what happened this past week with realignment, should be, if you're an athletic department sitting in a small town, whether that's in, Mississippi, Iowa, or Washington, that's something to definitely pay attention to. But, Washington State and, basically all four, depending on where, things land, are going to have some really hard decisions. And it's really sad because, that's a lot of revenue that, they're potentially about to lose, and that impacts people's lives. That impacts the town itself. So it was really sad to see. And, yeah, I really feel for my friends still up in Pullman.
Could you see the Pac-12 being salvaged in your opinion, or is that now gone?
No, I mean, there's a lot of due diligence to do. Just, what are the assets and liabilities of the Pac-12? There's a lot there, obviously, a lot of great things. It's got great brand recognition. But, there's a lot of due diligence that has to be done. And, lots of folks at the conference level and, various conferences looking at that and trying to figure that out.
JD Wicker with us right now, John and Jim, the all-new San Diego Sports 760. You kind of just alluded to this with the small towns, how television maybe is really driving the bus here. From a TV perspective or from a conference realignment perspective, JD, from your seat, how much of this is about television? And how do TV executives view San Diego, this market, San Diego State, and some of the viewership numbers that come in the revenue sports like football and men's basketball?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fairly obvious that TV is driving this and the dollars that come from, television opportunities. So I think, that's pretty much the answer to that. San Diego State sitting in, San Diego, 27th, 28th largest DMA, which is number of TV sets, over 1 million TV sets. Obviously, we've shown that we can have success and we can draw viewership. So, we're certainly attractive. It's just, figuring out where is that right fit at this point. And, one of our challenges, even being in this market, having not been a Power Five. I mean, that's as you look at the Big 12. The Big 12's first move was always to get the four corner schools, and they were always going to wait to see what the Pac-12 did. And if they couldn't get the four corner schools, then they would go to Plan B. So, lots of conversations with them, but once they got the four corner schools, and their television partners were very happy with that. Then, that's kind of where they sit right now.
JD, do you feel like coast to coast travel for athletic departments now is sustainable in this, climate of college athletics?
No. I mean, with football's so different from most sports.
Mm-hmm.
We'll play, I think, 5 road games and 7 home games this year. So if you're traveling across the country or halfway across the country 4 or 5 times over 3 months, it's not as big a deal as, say, if you're, it's your baseball team, your basketball team, where they're going every other week. So it's going to be really interesting to watch how this plays out for a lot of schools. One, it's expensive. I think you saw some student athletes out there talking about their mental health, their academic piece. So there's going to be a lot of work that has to be done by athletic departments to make sure the student athletes, are having a great experience. So, football flying across the country, not as big a deal as maybe some of your other sports. So that will take a lot of due diligence for those schools to, make that work in a fashion that is best for their student athletes.
JD Wicker with us right now, and John and Jim, the all-new San Diego Sports 760. I know Brian Dutcher has talked about this previously, and I think he was quoted by John Rothstein recently this week, talking about kind of like he sees conferences, or he believes the conferences should just work out geographically. Do you feel as if geographically that could be a recruiting advantage, even against Power 5 schools? Let's say, for example, a Cal is in the ACC, or some other West Coast schools are playing in State College and College Park, Maryland. Could the fact that San Diego State isn't making those trips in other sports be advantageous from a recruiting perspective, just geographically?
Yeah, I do think we'll see, an uptick in the ability to keep West Coast kids on the West Coast.
Right.
Because not only are they not, the other piece of it is, how is my family going to get to, see me play as often as they may want to see me? They can't, it's so, depending on where you're at on the West Coast, it could be a drive to see your kid play in a weekend series or something like that. If you're, flying across the country, that's going to be a little harder to do. So I think it will have a positive impact on San Diego State from a recruiting standpoint.
All right. So JD Wicker again with us on John and Jim. How do you deal with, there's so many rumors with conference realignment. It's covered almost like it's a college sport, and it just goes on and on and on. Rumors, some are from affiliated media members, others from, social media accounts. And what's just your reaction in general to the way that realignment is covered?
Obviously there's been a lot of, disinformation, maybe not factual. And then, obviously, if you saw yesterday, some of it's just outright lies and falsehoods. And, very unhappy about the article that, Dennis Dodd and CBS put out yesterday because it's not true. They know that and have continued to work on it. But yeah, there's a lot of disinformation that's out there. There's certain reporters that do great due diligence and report things that are, accurate, but a lot of what you see, especially on Twitter, don't put a whole lot of faith in it.
In regards to that Dennis Dodd piece, JD, you originally quote tweeted it, said that this was misinformation, it was fake, and then you came out a little later and released a statement about it. Why did you feel like you needed to release a statement to refute that?
I just want, there needs to be, what's the reason that it's fake news? You just can't come out and say it's fake news and just leave it. And people are like, well, what's fake in it?
Right.
So, and I wanted to be very specific of, what we had not done. And, I'm not sure who's out, talking about that or doing that. And, is it trying to undermine San Diego State, or they truly don't understand what's going on and they're going off of their own rumor and hearsay? But I'm tired of things not being accurate. And, I was going to set the, and it also painted my president in a very bad light. And that's not fair because she didn't do that.
Yeah. And again, as I've said a lot here, it's like the transparency that you have shown, the president has shown. Oftentimes you don't get that, by the way, with conference realignment. JD Wicker is with us right now on John and Jim. We saw, obviously, the Mountain West puts out a statement today regarding alignment, so to speak. What kind of options is the Mountain West potentially looking at? You mentioned it. There could be a merger potentially. Who knows what name the league flies under? Are we kind of waiting on Cal Stanford to then see what happens with Oregon State, Washington State, or what's next here in your opinion?
Yeah, there's definitely some dominoes that have to fall, and are Cal and Stanford going to consider a West Coast conference? One of the West Coast conferences here, the Mountain West, or what exactly are they going to do? And then you move forward from there. Again, the Mountain West is the best G5 conference now that the American has lost a bunch of schools to the Big 12. We've got the opportunity to pretty much year in and year out get that CFP spot in the new 12-team playoff that's going to go to one of the G5 schools. So it is a great landing place at this point. Like I said, we've shown that we can certainly, make it to the highest levels of NCAA competition from the Mountain West Conference. So as we look at all the different elements, if we can strengthen the Mountain West Conference and make it better, then we'll certainly try to do that.
So, JD, when the group of five, will the group of five continue to have a seat at the table, when the college football playoff contract is renegotiated for the 2026 season? Do you believe that?
Yeah. I think we'll have, it's, 5 leagues. That's a lot of teams. And yeah, I think we will definitely have a seat at the table to, be able and, have at least one slot that's guaranteed out of those 5 conferences. And then you've got to compete for the rest of it.
JD Wicker with us right now on John and Jim. People have asked, I've seen it a little bit on social media, JD. We've gotten it on our text line today. The impact on your men's soccer and women's lacrosse programs, right? Because both have been members of the PAC12 conference. Lacrosse about to be a member, in fact, of the PAC12 conference as an affiliate member. What's the impact here on men's soccer and women's lacrosse?
Yeah, we're just really starting to try to get into that. As you look at the 4 remaining members, 3 of those schools play men's soccer: Oregon State, Cal, and Stanford. So depending on what they ultimately decide to do, you look at what's available. There are a couple schools in the Mountain West that also have men's soccer. So you could end up having a men's soccer league within the Mountain West. So we kind of got to wait for some dominoes to fall. And then, I think the schools going to the Big 12 out of the Pac-12, the Big 12 doesn't play women's lacrosse. And I'm not sure there's a team that's even in the Big 12 that has women's lacrosse of the, what was the current membership. So there's some, there'll be some schools looking for a home. So you could potentially put together something, just a lacrosse conference of, more of those Western schools that play that don't really have a home.
JD, I'm curious, the impact right now of Snapdragon Stadium and the revenue it's generating for the university and athletics, How valuable has it been? What do the projections look like? What impact does Snapdragon Stadium and what that's presented to the university? What's that going to mean for your athletics department?
Yeah, again, we developed Snapdragon to have, multiple lines of revenue. So that's going to be important for us. It's going to be important for, paying for the stadium because, there's still 300, plus $1 million of stadium to pay for. And, Aztec fans need to step up. This is the time. You can't, I know we're all a little disappointed that, what happened on Friday happened, but if there's, we need you now more than ever, buy season tickets, buy tickets to, football games and come out and, support the student athletes and show the rest of the country that, the Aztec faithful support their, their football team, their basketball team, their soccer, volleyball, whatever it may be. But, we need to see people in the stands cheering on the Aztecs, and it needs to look good on TV because, every game is going to be nationally televised this year, especially that UCLA game on Big CBS.
Yeah, and going back to realignment here real quick, JD, you mentioned the Big 12 kind of after the Big Four corner schools, they kind of closed off as far as realignment and expansion goes, but the ACC is another conference that is in the rumor mill of potentially expanding now with like maybe Cal and Stanford, but like has the ACC contacted you at all?
No, the ACC has not contacted San Diego State at this point. So, again, it's one of those things as you look at, cross-country travel and those types of things, and depending on, revenues that you're receiving, that's something that's very challenging. And what does it mean to your student-athlete experience? So, with everyone that we can have conversations with and, figure this out. And again, the Mountain West Conference is in a great place to, become stronger through this.
What can San Diegans expect at Snapdragon? I mean, there's been so much in the first year, JD. It has not been a year, remarkably, since the opening of that. But there's been a lot. I mean, I know you're working on 2024 and beyond. I'm sure there's probably not a lot you could share, to be honest. But I mean, what can San Diegans expect to see in 2024? Because they've seen a lot in 2023.
Yeah, we'll continue to, program the stadium with, great events, starting with Aztec football. And, working on concerts, working on some pretty, nice soccer opportunities next year. So excited about that. And then, MLS will be, under a year come, I guess next February and getting started. And that's going to be great for the San Diego community. Snapdragon. So, we're fortunate in San Diego that San Diego State has built, what is seat for seat the best stadium in the country for our community. And so hope people continue to show up and support all of the teams that are there. That just helps us continue to, reinvest in the stadium and reinvest in our programs and continue to look at a great game day atmosphere for our fans.
And whenever the dust settles, and it might not ever settle with conference realignment and bowl games and everything that goes into college football and athletics, could you see San Diego State having a path to potentially the Holiday Bowl, which obviously is currently aligned with the Pac-12 conference?
There's some. I'm not sure how bowl games are going to work. All the bowl games, I think, have the ability in their contract to reopen the negotiation if teams move around. Now, what I'm not sure, the NCAA in the last time bowl games got certified, each conference got assigned a number of bowl games they could actually, sign contracts with based on the number of teams who have gone to bowl games over a certain time frame. So I'm not exactly sure how that works. And, Big Ten, are they able to add bowls because of the changes that have happened? That's something I haven't seen anything from NCAA on at this point. So I'm sure there'll be some reshuffling to a certain point, especially if you end up merging a Pac-12 and a Big 12, there's now 9 conferences. So, where do those bowl games that were potentially in the Pac-12 or the Mountain West Conference where you combine them? So, there's a lot of questions that got created last week that have not been answered.
JD, just two more. You've been extremely generous with your time. I wanted to ask about men's basketball. the renewal process, the excitement. We've talked about football and the season's coming up in 2 weeks. Men's basketball off a national championship game. What's everything looking like? Renewal percentages and anticipation for the season inside of the AHAS?
Yeah, no, it's going to be a great year. We're excited about the team that Brian and the coaching staff have put together. I think we're at 95+% or close to it of season ticket renewals. So there won't be a lot of inventory available, for folks if they don't get season tickets. But really excited about the year. Excited to, hang a banner and hand out some hardware for those young men that did such a great job. And it's going to be a great year.
And then finally, Aztec Link with the football program on the name, image, likeness side, Mesa Foundation with basketball and the university. I mean, what role are these, collectives having, and what do you want our listeners and supporters in San Diego State to know about NIL right now?
Yeah, I think it's important to check out what the Mesa Foundation Aztec Link are doing, and support those groups. It's that's a part of college athletics right now. It will be interesting to see if Congress does anything over the coming months ahead of the first of the year, surrounding NIL and some of the things that have been worked on. I don't know if last week is going to impact that negatively or not, but hopefully we can get some guardrails for the ability for the NCAA to put just some rule and regulation around it a little bit. Love the fact that student athletes able to are able to go out and take advantage of their NIL. Lamont Butler, has done very well since the national semifinal game. I mean, he had an NIL opportunity the next day, so that's great. And right now, collectives are a big part of what goes into that. So hopefully, people will look at that and help support those organizations that support our student athletes.
JD, seriously, thank you. We know it's been as busy of a time as maybe you've had in your career the last year, the opening of Snapdragon Stadium to what's going on this summer with realignment. Really do appreciate the transparency. Seriously, since day one with us here on San Diego Sports 760 and elsewhere. Thank you for doing it. We'll see you soon. Football's 2 weeks away. We look forward to seeing you on the Mesa in a couple of weeks.
Are you going to be there on Saturday for FanFest?
Unfortunately, I have another event, an important event on Saturday night, but really encourage all of our fans to get out. It's your first opportunity to see Ryan Lindley's offense. I think, everyone's excited about that. So get to FanFest, get your season tickets, go out and support our student athletes and show the rest of the country what we're all about. Go Aztecs.
Yeah, and again, tickets are available for free right now for FanFest at goaztecs.com. JD, thank you. We'll see you soon. We appreciate it.
Thanks, JD.